All right, guys, we're doing a very brief stream here to, one, test out our new Twitter streaming to see if we can get it up and running. It's something we've been trying to do for a long time, get our streams not just on YouTube, but also on Twitter and a few other areas so that anyone, no matter where they are, can quickly discover our stream and see these impromptu updates that we're doing. As you are seeing from the thumbnail, if you're already tuned in for this, we are going to be doing a very quick analysis of whale behavior and exactly how we can identify what those top key stakeholders are doing right now and how that's impacting prices. There is a lot we can unravel just by looking at what we're looking at right now, which is the whale transaction count. And right now we're looking at Bitcoin's, sorry, one sec, guys. I have a family member who is asking for keys, so I just threw them by the door. So Bitcoin whale transaction count is essentially like a price direction change indicator. When we see a really big spike, like that one, that coincides with something like this, it usually indicates that there's some accumulation happening. Whales tend to spring into action when there's an extreme price action move happening. So, for example, big drop here, whale transactions go up, and then we see a little bit of a rise. Another one here, which happened after the rise, and then the price goes down. We saw the biggest example of it just happen right here on the 29th, just about 48 hours ago. And that was when prices were really topping out around 47.8 or so, and has been declining ever since. This, especially being the second largest spike of the last month, it tells us that people with a lot at stake in Bitcoin were really paying attention closely to this level and likely taking some profit here for the purpose of de-risking, right? Because we just went through a period over the past, let's just look at the last 10 days, going from here to the very top. Prices, doesn't want to do the percent change on this view, but it's looking like it went from around 41.1K to a top of around 48.1K, if I remember correct. So give or take, that's around 20%, maybe slightly under 20% gains. And whales paid a lot of attention to that, likely took profit here. And we'll look at another view in a moment that kind of validates that. And look at what's happening now. We're actually seeing our third largest spike of the last month occurring as we speak. And it's happening as prices are plummeting. To me, this tells me that a little more profit was being taken because the candle is, of course, in real time and happening probably at this level before prices have now dropped down here. So note that that is probably another profit take sign, and we're going to want to pay attention to how the candles look over the next couple of days to see if we see a lot of large candles like this, or if it immediately drops like this, indicating that the whales are now okay with the price direction and the lowered levels that have now occurred with us going back to the 46.2K level, about 2,000 below where we were just a couple days ago. As I said, we have another view we can look at. I have a template here. I call it whale absolute values. And what it does is it's going to show us the percent holdings. Let me switch this to Tether. There we go. So this is the percent holdings by the 10,000 to 10 million USDT addresses over the past 6 months, and then the 100 to 10,000 BTC addresses over the past 6 months. As we can see, the gold line peaked right around late October. The pink line for USDT peaked about a week later in early November. And since that time, both of their supplies have been plummeting. That shows that even with this rise here that's been occurring with Bitcoin going up roughly 20%, there hasn't been a lot of accumulation. So this rise isn't being supported by those 100 to 10K key stakeholder Bitcoin addresses that are generally considered to be those top tier traders that are actually active and reacting to the market fluctuations. Anything above 10K, we've concluded are vastly the majority of exchange addresses, which is why we try not to include them. They're not going to be as active or reactive to what's happening. So that said, we like to compare this to what's happening with the whale behavior. And with so much supply being hemorrhaged by the top key stakeholders, it's very likely that most of those big candles on whale transactions are an indication of profit taking rather than accumulation, because the percentage of supply held has dropped by somewhere around 175,000 Bitcoin over the past 5 months. That's I think that's in the billions, if not tens of billions of dollars. So that's no joke in terms of how much money is funneling out of these accounts. We can also look at Ethereum here, and we're seeing a very similar pattern. Look at how there was a spike here on the 29th and another one earlier today on the 31st. In both cases, the prices have kind of stayed stable for now. But this, I'd say, here, this looked like a top spike. This looked like a top spike too, even though the price kind of rose temporarily here. And then this one, the Ethereum price actually reacted to and began to plummet. But of course, that is very much correlated with the spike that's happening with Bitcoin right now, and all markets are plummeting a bit today. So we can see a few other examples like this one here. This one stopped a rally temporarily and we saw prices move down. Then we saw another rally stop right here. Even this one here, things sort of flattened out. And overall, it looks a little better for Ethereum because we're not seeing any like massive spikes like we did back here. Like this was a very clear top indicator. This was an indicator telling us that they were accumulating back in early September. And then this one was telling us they were likely dumping. And sure enough, prices really fell off a cliff over that next month following that spike. So, and then this latest one too, this was an accumulation spike. This actually occurred right in tandem with the war announcement when Russia declared war on Ukraine. And then prices immediately rose, fell again, but then rose once again. So it's really what the last spikes were showing, like especially this bundle here. Over the span of maybe 3 days, we were seeing a big rise in whale transactions relative to what was going on before and after it. And of course, that marked the bottom. We also have Cardano we can look at. Really interesting lack of whale transactions right here. I find that very, very intriguing, and I'd love to find out more about what occurred there. But look how clear this top indicator was. This was the largest spike over the past month with 587 transactions valued at over $100,000. Big retracement right afterwards. Even here, another big top indicator. This was the second or third, maybe fourth largest spike in the last month. Coincided perfectly with the top. There was a pullback and prices haven't recovered to that level since. So clearly there's some value there. Last thing I'll show really quick is our new whale transactions spreadsheet for Sandsheets, which is accessible for anyone who has a Sandbase Pro membership. This will be released soon. I don't have a link publicly available yet, but expect that to be up on our Discord and probably announced on Twitter in the next couple of days. What this does is it'll simply show the percentage change in the last 4-hour interval relative to the normal resting average. So when we see a huge spike in something like AMP or OhMySgo or Chili's, which is even cut off here. Let's look at Chili's actually. I think it was something like a $900 spike compared to its norm. And yeah, we can clearly see why. There was a huge spike here and even a huger spike here on the 29th. So there's been a ton of whale transactions happening here. And yes, prices continue to go up following it, but it does appear that this is profit taking. I mean, look at how perfectly this was and this. And then this would be a bottom indicator. So like almost every one of these spikes, especially for these smaller altcoins, they coincide pretty perfectly with tops and bottoms and can be used to your advantage quite well and quite often if you're paying close attention to what the large transactions are doing. So this model here really shows which projects you should be paying attention to due to the uptick in whale transactions. Red is usually, I colored it red just for the sake that usually the whale transaction spikes are going to occur at tops rather than bottoms, but that's not necessarily always the case. If you see, price changes in the negative range and then a big whale spike up here, that's a good sign indicating there's probably a bottom indicator, because whales accumulate as prices are moving down and dump as prices are moving up. And then, of course, if they're in the green level, like Maker, Bitcoin and Ethereum are in the red right now, so they're seeing more than usual. But like any of these, that indicates that there's very, very little whale transactions going on compared to their norm. So if we look at Maker, it should validate that there isn't many spikes happening. And that's mostly the case. If we change it, we zoom out a little more to like the last 6 months. Yeah, I mean, more or less, it's showing that there really isn't much compared to like the big spikes here, and especially here. These were indicative of the bottom. So hopefully this was helpful, guys. This was more or less to give you a quick update, as well as to test out our Twitter stream, which hopefully Balresh is working somewhat well. We'll have to check on how the replay looks after we stop recording here. But yeah, let us know what you think of this. Let us know what kind of quick flash topics we can cover next. And we look forward to chatting with you tomorrow in about 22-ish hours or so to give you a full comprehensive market update. Talk to y'all then. Be safe.